Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Common parlance is the shared vocabulary of a culture. Think of it as a sort of tapestry, woven from words and expressions passed down through generations. These expressions, maxims, and idioms often attempt to carry a kernel of wisdom, a reflection of historical moments, or the distillation of complex ideas into a few memorable words. A gift of phrase. Yet, as language evolves and is handed from one speaker to the next, the intent behind these expressions can fade or warp. Once firmly rooted in a specific context, their origins can become obscured, leaving behind a phrase whose meaning has shifted or been oversimplified. Consider the biblical story of seeing the writing on the wall. Originating in the book of Daniel, this phrase foretells doom with an air of divine inevitability. Today, it's often used to describe the obvious, losing much of its original weight and prophetic tone. Similarly, more recent expressions like good fences make good neighbors, drawn from Robert Frost's Mending Wall, are often misapplied to support rigid divisions, ignoring the poem's broader questioning of such barriers. These changes occur through repeated use, reinterpretation, and the natural human tendency to adapt language to fit contemporary needs. Over time, the words endure, but their meaning may shift like a river, altering its course. This phenomenon is neither inherently good nor bad. It's simply the nature of language as a living, breathing force. However, losing sight of a phrase's origins can dilute its richness and obscure its intended wisdom. As we examine some of these enduring expressions, we uncover not just their histories, but also the ways in which our understanding of them shapes how we think and communicate. By doing so, we reconnect with the depth and texture of our shared linguistic heritage. The phrase shouting fire in a crowded theatre has become synonymous with the idea that free speech has limits, particularly when speech endangers others. Its origins lie in Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes' opinion in Schenck versus United States, where he justified restricting speech that presents a clear and present danger. The irony, however, is that this principle was applied to suppress dissenting voices, such as Yiddish-speaking socialists opposing World War I. These activists distributed pamphlets denouncing the draft as unjust and destructive, likening the war to a fire consuming the lives of the working class. They were, in their view, shouting fire to warn against what they saw as the figurative conflagration of militarism. Yet their warnings were silenced under the guise of protecting public order. Today, the phrase is often invoked to silence controversial ideas, yet its origins remind us of the importance of discerning when speech truly endangers versus when it challenges the status quo. As Holmes himself later reflected, the standard of clear and present danger was flawed and overly restrictive. The exception that proves the rule is often used to suggest that exceptions somehow validate generalities, but its original meaning is rooted in legal reasoning. The phrase comes from a Latin maxim, exceptio probat regulam, which means that specifying an exception implies the existence of a broader rule. For example, a sign reading "No parking on Sundays" implies parking is allowed on other days. Historically, this concept was employed in legal and logical contexts to clarify the boundaries of rules. Over time, this nuanced concept has been diluted and misunderstood. For instance, people might argue that a highly successful college dropout, such as Bill Gates, proves the rule that education is necessary for success, a misuse that confuses correlation with causation. By reclaiming its precise meaning, we can appreciate its subtle insight into rules and their exceptions, and better understand the interplay between general principles and their limitations. Marie Antoinette's apocryphal remark, "Let them eat cake," is often cited as a symbol of aristocratic ignorance during the French Revolution. However, the phrase predates her, appearing in Jean-Jacques Rousseau's Confessions, published in 1782, where it was attributed to an unnamed great princess. It reflects a broader critique of the disconnect between rulers and the suffering poor. The misattribution to Marie Antoinette likely stems from her unpopularity and the desperate conditions of pre-revolutionary France. Over time, the phrase became a caricature of Marie Antoinette's supposed indifference, despite no evidence she ever uttered it. Today, it serves as a shorthand for elite detachment, yet its history reminds us that such phrases often oversimplify complex realities, distorting both the speaker and their times. The tragedy of the French Revolution, hunger, poverty, and class struggle, is obscured when this phrase becomes merely a catch-all for perceived arrogance. Rome wasn't built in a day underscores the value of patience and persistence. Originating from medieval French sources, the phrase speaks to the effort required to achieve greatness. Rome's grandeur, from the Colosseum to the aqueducts, was the result of centuries of labor, ingenuity, and cultural evolution. In modern use, the phrase often justifies delays, losing its emphasis on steady work over time. A procrastinator might use it to excuse inaction, saying, "Rome wasn't built in a day," without recognizing the diligent effort behind Rome's achievements. By reclaiming the phrase's original intent, we can remind ourselves that while patience is essential, progress requires consistent effort, not mere waiting. As the Roman historian Livy chronicled, Rome rose not by chance, but by perseverance. The phrase "curiosity killed the cat" warns against the dangers of inquisitiveness, but its original form was "care killed the cat." Here, care refers to worry or stress, not curiosity. This early version appeared in 16th century English plays, including Every Man in His Humour by Ben Jonson. Over time, the phrase evolved, with curiosity replacing care. This shift in meaning discourages exploration, stifling intellectual growth. A modern misapplication might be telling a child not to ask questions, out of fear they'll uncover something unpleasant. Reconnecting with the original phrase reminds us that curiosity is often a strength, not a flaw, and that undue worry, not inquiry, is the greater danger. As Albert Einstein once said, the important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. Jack of all trades, master of none, is frequently used as a slight, but the full phrase adds, but oftentimes better than master of one. This complete version celebrates versatility, suggesting that breadth of knowledge can be more valuable than narrow expertise. During the Renaissance, a jack of all trades was a compliment, reflecting the ideal of the polymath, someone skilled in multiple disciplines, like Leonardo da Vinci. Over time, the truncated phrase has become a criticism of mediocrity, ignoring the value of adaptability. For example, being a jack of all trades can be an asset in today's rapidly changing job market. Recalling its fuller meaning highlights the importance of versatility and the ability to navigate diverse challenges. The modern interpretation of blood is thicker than water suggests family bonds are the strongest, but the original proverb was, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." This reversal celebrates chosen relationships over familial ties. The phrase's origins trace back to medieval literature and Christian theology, where covenants were sacred commitments. Its evolution illustrates how phrases can be stripped of nuance, reinforcing ideas contrary to their origins. For example, someone might use the modern version to pressure a family member into prioritizing kin over close friends, missing the original sentiment's focus on voluntary bonds. Restoring its true meaning can deepen our understanding of human connection and highlight the strength of chosen communities. As previously mentioned, in Robert Frost's Mending Wall, good fences make good neighbors is often cited to justify boundaries. Yet, Frost's narrator questions the need for these barriers, suggesting that they inhibit connection. The neighbor repeats the adage in the poem, but the narrator wonders, "Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out." The phrase's misuse highlights how language can lose its richness when divorced from context. In a modern context, it might be invoked to defend social or political barriers, ignoring Frost's skepticism. Recognizing the poem's nuance opens us to questioning assumptions, fostering deeper understanding and dialogue. As Frost implies, breaking down unnecessary fences invites the possibility of connection and growth. The degradation of such phrases, maxims, and idioms reflects a broader reluctance to question and explore language. Our expressions shape our thoughts, and their misuse can limit understanding. Rediscovering the original meanings of these sayings is not just an act of linguistic curiosity, but a crucial exercise in sharpening our thinking. To refine our words is to refine our ideas. To question our assumptions is to rediscover the depth of our intellect. Imagine language as a lens through which we view the world. When smudged by carelessness, it distorts our vision, blurring the beauty of nuance and the precision of meaning. To clean this lens, we must embrace curiosity and correction. This effort is not confined to the uneducated or those prone to misunderstanding. It is a responsibility we all share. Whether we are poets, academics, or casual conversationalists, our language's clarity and accuracy reflect the quality of our thinking. Consider the act of being corrected, a moment not of shame, but opportunity. When someone points out our misunderstanding, they hand us a more powerful tool for thought. In accepting that we may be wrong, we become stronger, more adaptable, more whole. Like frost's crumbling fences, exposing the gaps in our understanding does not weaken us, but invites us to build bridges instead of walls. Returning to frost, the idea of good fences gains a richer meaning. Good fences are not the rigid barriers of misunderstanding, but the flexible boundaries that foster mutual respect and connection. By questioning, exploring, and even dismantling these barriers, we grow closer to one another and the truth. To question is not to destroy, but to enrich. There is joy and opportunity in being wrong, as each misstep is a chance to move forward with a sharper relief, a phrase which, incidentally, originates from the world of art and sculpture, particularly from the concept of relief in sculpting. Relief refers to a technique where a sculpted image projects from a flat background. Depending on how much the image protrudes, it is described as high relief or low relief. The term was then extended to describe how certain elements, whether visual, conceptual, or situational, can stand out more prominently when contrasted with their surroundings. While in the metaphorical sense, thrown into sharper relief means making a concept or feeling more distinct, noticeable, or emphasized, often by juxtaposing it against a contrasting backdrop. In our common parlance and the exploration of its use exists the raw power and magic of language, not as a fixed structure, but as a living, evolving reflection of a shared history and humanity, too easily lost without a persistent curiosity that extends beyond what we accept at face value, take for granted, and refuse to contemplate.